Hey, my name's John, and I hope you're doing well today. And today I want to talk about culture shock and my experiences with it when traveling and moving. As you might have known, recently I went on a trip to Japan in early April with a couple of friends. And as you can imagine, for someone that currently lives in Toronto, Canada, it was a pretty large departure from what I was usually familiar with. Everything from the language to the social norms, interacting with people, and even stuff as mundane as how the bedrooms were just seemed so wildly exotic to me. Hell, even after coming back, I can't imagine people wanting to sleep on tatami mats. It just hurts people's back. But that aside, the most noticeable aspects were being quiet in a lot of public transportation there, or just the general respect that people have towards customers made me feel a little bit awestruck at times. Exaggerations aside, I did feel a bit homesick and lonely at times, especially since in Japan people tend to keep to themselves more than they do in Canada, or especially in the States. But even more was the feeling of how impressed I was with everything else, especially seeing how clean and polite everyone was. It made me a bit envious actually coming back here in Canada and just seeing such a dramatic attitude and social norm change. Actually, going back a bit, Asian culture isn't entirely foreign to me. I wasn't actually born in Canada, as you might have told, but actually rather China. I remember moving there when I was just a kid, and going from one side of the world to the other can be a pretty big shock for someone so young like me. Growing up, I really didn't think much of it. After all, I was just adapting to being raised in Canada, so it wasn't until much later, and especially after going to other countries, that I started noticing how different even my own background was. Holidays like the Autumn Festival or Lunar New Year's, I didn't explore much about it until I was already an adult. And after talking to my parents about it and asking them about their experiences about adjusting to, their new life in Canada, I got an idea of how just big the cultural differences were. And I think the biggest ones that I noticed was how people perceive their relationships with those that are older to them. Coming from a country that, made Confucianism so widespread, it was clear that the way that my parents saw respecting your elders was completely different from the more Canadian, or in a broader sense, Western ideology of being more self-reliant and free. Yeah, I know, it's a big, huge oversimplification, but I think if there's any good example, it would be how Asian cultures view living with your parents compared to Western ones. I'm not really sure if that's a great way to deal with culture shock, but I feel like that to be able to deal with it, you have to go out and just experience more around the world and slowly sort of adapt and respect the culture of there. It can be caused by a whole bunch of things like language differences, food, or social norms. And I feel like culture shock can at times make you feel very anxious, confused, or lonely. But, I'm sure with enough time, we can learn to adapt to the differences in culture. And to be honest, it may even help us get a deeper understanding and appreciation of our own cultures. Going back to my experiences, there were things that I really appreciated about Chinese, Japanese, and Asian cultures as a whole, especially seeing how we treat those that are older than us and making sacrifices for the group. It leaves a lot to sort of be desired here in Canada. And likewise, how friendly and the importance of self-reliance also leaves more to be desired from more Asian countries. The grass is always sort of green on the other side, I think is a great way to say this. Either way, I feel like it's good food for thought about how we can each take cultures to sort of improve our own individual lives. Remember that it takes the culmination of multiple things to sort of make our own lives sort of worth it and better. As always, thanks for watching. Until next time.